Hello, everybody. Welcome to the FDIC Product Network, brought to you by FDIC International and Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. I'm Ed Ballum, editor of Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Today, we have an encore presentation of the KME RevFireGroup's Virtual Apparatus Conference and Expo, hosted by former editor Chris McClune. We'll be learning more about KME's 103-foot tough truck aerial and a unique pumper recently delivered to Pittston, PA. With us today is Peter Horschak, KME Senior Product Manager. And Peter, welcome and thanks for being here with us today.
Thanks, Ed.
Can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing today?
Yeah, we're going to feature a video on our 103-foot aerial cat tough truck aerial ladder and a short wheelbase pumper built for Pittston, PA.
That's great. Well, thank you. And for all you folks watching live at home, you can submit your question anytime during this broadcast, and we'll get to them at the end of the video. So, okay, folks, settle in and let's watch the video and learn more about the new KME apparatus.
Good morning and welcome back. We are here at the RevFireGroup Apparatus Truck Conference and Expo. My name is Chris McClune. I will be your host for today. And before we jump into our other guests, I just wanted to quickly go through what's in store for you today at the RevFireGroup Apparatus Conference and Expo. First of all, right now this week we are highlighting the KME brand. Today we're going to have 2 truck walk-arounds, and that's what you're here for right now. We're going to look at a 103-foot KME tough truck, as well as a custom pumper delivered to the Pittston Fire Department in Pennsylvania. Right after this, first of all, we encourage you to ask as many questions as you want. There's a ask a question box on the screen in front of you. Please ask the questions there. We'll get to as many as we can during the Q&A today, but if you can't, immediately following this, there is an opportunity for you to meet with Rev representatives in the Rev showroom. So log into the portal or go back into the portal, visit the showroom, ask any questions of Rev representatives there. That will go from 11 to 1. At 1 o'clock today, don't forget, this expo features FDIC powered education. And today our class is called Proven Truck Tactics That Might Surprise You. So that's from 1 to 2. And then following that, another opportunity to meet up with Rev personnel at Rev showroom meetings. So now I would like to introduce our guest today. First of all, from our expert side of the equation, we have Chief Brian Brown, retired Chief Brian Brown. He was in charge of fleet services for South Metro Colorado Fire Rescue. From KME, first we have Jason Baylor. He is a sales application engineer for KME. We have Brian Connolly, Director of Sales for KME. We have Alyssa McGlone, Director of Marketing for the RevFireGroup. And we have Mike Vernig here today, who is the Vice President of Sales with the RevFireGroup. Mike, I wanted to throw it over to you. I know you have a few words you'd like to say before each truck walk around.
Yeah, Chris, thank you. And thank you, Chief Brown, for lending your expertise today. You know, this is week 3. We've done E1 and for our last week and E1 the week before, and now it's KME's turn. You know, what's exciting about this is to celebrate the DNA of these companies. You know, every one of these businesses that we have has their own specific DNA and their own customer base. And so this is just a great opportunity for us to highlight that, and we're very excited to get started and show you what we have to offer.
Without any further ado, let's roll the 103-foot tough truck. Don't forget that as we roll this, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to type them into your Ask a Question window. Roll the tape.
Hi, welcome to day 1 of the Rev Truck Expo. My name is Jason Baylor with KME Fire Apparatus. Thank you for your interest. I'd like to take a couple minutes of our time and go through the features and benefits of our 103-foot tough truck design. The truck is built on a KME severe service chassis. A benefit of this vehicle is its narrow width. Even with that 96-inch wide cab, we are still able to package a X12 500 horsepower engine. The interior of the tough truck cab
is our new improved cab dash. It gives you a driver operator a longer, wider panel for controls for him to access during operation. You'll see that everything from the park brake, pump shift, and transmission are all on one easy accessible panel that's also easily viewed by the driver while driving. So he can do everything he needs to right from that screen. It is a multiplex screen. In this truck, you see the option for the two screens, one on the driver's side and one on the officer's side. We do also feature traditional switches that you can see either on the driver's overhead or officer's overhead, or wherever the department sees fit to put, if they don't have to access critical things through the touch screen. The dash of the vehicle is available with either traditional gauges or the advanced gauge display that you see in this current truck.
Tough truck was designed for a lot of the Northeast, tight streets, tight alleys, small stations. So we really paid attention to the maneuverability of the apparatus. The pump house is designed to keep the wheelbase minimal. Also, this is packaging currently a 1500 GPM Hale pump. It is available up to a 2000 GPM pump. One thing that's impressive along with this is a 650 gallon water tank. So a lot of departments that may be choosing to run this vehicle out first day or first out during the day gives the ability of still having large amounts of water on the vehicle, 650 gallons in this case, and still pre-connects and things that can function as engine operations. This truck as it sits right now is just over 38 feet long. The wheelbase is at 227 inches. Reduced overhang on this truck is 140 inches from the center of the tandem to the back of the truck, which improves maneuverability and reduces the tail swing of the apparatus. Even with this 96-inch wide configuration, we still have over 250 square feet of compartment volume on this apparatus. So today's fans and saws that are available for the fire department to use on truck operations are getting larger, take up more room. So we have full height, full depth compartmentation available in all of these configurations. One thing that's built into every rear mount ladder that KME designs is the ability to package many ground ladders. We will tout the ability to package ISO ground ladders on all of our apparatus. So two section 35s are never a problem. The body's designed around holding that. Currently we have two 35s, a 28, a 16 and an 18, and also a 14-foot attic ladder and a 10-foot folding with the variation of pike poles. So you have the ability to gain some ISO points with the apparatus as well, but also a lot of flexibility for ground ladders for fire ground operations. The KME 103 tough truck has a narrow jack stance of only 12 foot. So currently this truck is fully jacked. Basically this jack will only come out roughly 3 foot on each side of the vehicle. You can see we have integrated lights into the jack beam itself. They turn from amber when they're not fully jacked to when they are fully jacked to green. It does have the ability for short jack. So in the event you're in a narrow alley or some tight configuration with other apparatus in the scene, you can short jack this to just basically a 10-foot jack stance. So you can tell a lot of that attention to detail was made so we can make sure that this apparatus would be able to be put into operation regardless of the scene or where it was asked to do that. A lot of people talk to us about a single axle configuration versus a tandem axle configuration. And you can see with our wheelbase being at 227, like I mentioned before, maneuverability is not really that critical on this tandem axle, but it allows us that we kept the strength of our aerial device. When you look at the base section or the handrail section of our aerial device, we have 70% more steel in the base section, 50% more in the handrail section. So that really incorporates a lot of strength in the design. And with that, we didn't want to sacrifice anything by going to a single axle configuration. This version of the 103-foot tough truck has our advanced aerial control system. So you can see it has a very large 10-inch screen. A lot of information is on that screen from the way the truck is set up. It'll show you if you're fully jacked, the angle, the grade of the truck. Any information as far as operation of the apparatus will show up on the screen that has full cabin body avoidance. It'll tell you on that screen if you enter into any of those zones. You'll see cradle alignment, rung alignment, things of that nature will all be integrated right into that main screen. So one thing I really want to draw your attention to here is our load chart. The benefit to the load chart for the end user is basically where all the information from any manufacturer must be giving. A lot of things you're going to notice on here is this has a 500-pound tip load, wet or dry, regardless of any position. This truck is not going to stop you from any area from extending, regardless of your angle or degree. You always have that 500-pound tip load from -7 to +80, whether it's fully extended or fully retracted. Also, the ability of our storefront blitz option. We still have a 250-pound tip load while doing storefront blitz. So this is a great place to get a lot of that information. Even as you're trying to collect data from other manufacturers, this is the tall tale sign of where the truth actually comes out of how the aerial can operate. One thing I had mentioned earlier about a KME aerial was not sacrificing any strength or weight to get down to a single axle configuration. Every aerial that we manufacture is made from 100,000 PSI steel. And besides the yield strength, which means a lot to a lot of engineers and things like that, but to the end user, when you see an aerial in configuration like this or in setup like this, you'll take notice that there isn't a lot of twist in the aerial device. It's solid. Even when you actually move on to the ladder or get off the ladder, you can see there isn't a lot of droop. The ladder stays very straight. So as you're transitioning off a roof or onto a roof, you don't have to worry about the aerial raising a couple feet and not having the ability to get back on the truck. So all that strength has never been sacrificed in any of our aerial designs. And that's why we are proud to offer this 103-foot tough truck to the fire industry today. Thank you very much for your time, and look forward to talking to you more.
Okay, we are back. And before we jump into our Q&A with Jason and get Chief Brown in on the act, I wanted to comment just real quick and event, we'll go back to the booth as well. When we, and I know Chief Brown has some questions about this as well. When we talk about this truck, the truck as it's sitting there are a number of features on it that you don't normally see. And Chief Brown's going to ask about this in a little bit. Just the 650-gallon tank, for example, we don't see tanks of that size normally on an aerial. But this is a very specific specific product that KME developed. It was based on specific criteria that it had gotten back from its customers. So if we could cut back to the booth, I wanted to ask Mike real quick if you could just kind of go over some of that genesis of how the tough truck came to be.
Yeah, so when we saw the industry was moving towards smaller aerials with a 100-foot reach, and you noticed that people were going to single axle, but they were limited with how much water they could carry and how much equipment they could put on, we challenged the KME engineering team to shorten the truck, but keep the toughness and the heavy-duty KME DNA into it. And they went to work on it. It took about 1.5 years, and what they came up with is, Chris, what you saw today, and it's pretty spectacular when you see what we're able to do as far as what this truck can carry and what the configurability is, and then the tight package and what you saw in that video and what you'll talk about in a minute. But we're very, very excited about this truck, and we think it's an alternative to some of the single axle trucks that are out there now.
Okay. As we get based on what Mike just discussed with us, this is a truck that is really, and we talked about this a couple times over the past 2 weeks through the different brands. It really does represent some of the current trends within the fire service in terms of trying to get as much as to maximize the productivity of any of the vehicles wants and needs. I mean, it is, these are tactical considerations that departments are up against right now, where they need, look to the manufacturers to get some of those features incorporated. So just having now seen the video and such, what were your first impressions of the rig?
Well, Chris, I agree with you. It's a very dynamic, very heavy-duty truck. The thing that's most appealing to me is the overall aerial footprint. To look at reach is incredible, especially if you're going to go out and you're looking at purchasing an aerial and you're looking at your the area it's going to service. It's very incredible to think about that you only have an 11 or 12 foot footprint. Very dynamic feature with that aerial.
Now, as we get into this, and we're going to talk more with Jason when he's over at the truck there, get some, kind of, some of that product specialty feedback on this. What are you seeing, especially as you get around the country? You are, you're speaking at different conferences. You come to FDIC International every year. So you're out there. You're kind of on the front lines of some of these things, and you have now, having retired recently from the Colorado. You now are also on a consultancy side. What are you seeing a number of your customers asking for in their aerials? And when we talk about, and we'll get into this with Jason in a few, when we talk about that 650-gallon tank, for example, there's a lot of engineering that has to go into getting a tank of that size on a truck like this. So there are certain challenges that customers are facing. So what are some of the challenges that you see in the work you're doing around the country right now in terms of, it doesn't only have to be aerials, it could be, the other trucks that you see being spec'd out these days?
Chris, one of the biggest questions that comes up, especially when you look at 650 gallons of water on an aerial device, is how much does that truck weigh? What's the overall GVW, the gross vehicle weight rating of that truck? That's one of the biggest challenges, and that would raise a lot of red flags. However, what you have to think about is that truck truly going to be fully loaded in its lifetime? Probably not. The other biggest thing is a lot of the clients and customers that I deal with don't actually drive around their district and look at the setback that they're going to have to deal with when they have an aerial device in that district, and the reach that they have to have, and how they're going to be able to, is 103 enough, or can they do a 95, or do they have to go to 105? I would bet that this 103 would fit a lot of different applications with a lot of the different customers I deal with. So I like it.
Now, one of the aspects that you always talk about, well, actually there are two. One is the needs versus wants, but one of your specialties in Colorado was the maintenance end of things. And so what, as you go around, you make your travels, what are some of, I guess this kind of puts you on the spot, but what are some of the cool maintenance features you have seen as you make your rounds? And also, what are some of the challenges that come to mind? I know for me, one of the things that has been talked about a lot are electronic valves, for example. And the beauty of the electronic valves on a pump panel is that you can then put that valve anywhere in line anywhere. But oftentimes the department might not include their maintenance personnel on the truck committee, and where that valve is ultimately placed is not in the best spot for maintenance. So I guess what are some of the things that you have seen spec that are helping that aspect that maybe other departments can borrow? Because we all steal from each other. We all, whenever we see something cool on one truck, we always want to put it on our next truck. So, what are some of the things that you've seen, and what are some of the challenges that maybe you faced in South Metro and that you see other departments facing today?
Well, I got to tell you, when you talk about electronic valves or electric valves, it's a love-hate relationship. Departments love them or they hate them. So many departments want to keep going to that manual push-pull valve, which I don't technically disagree with. However, I'm a big techie guy and I love the technology. So the more we can use the technology to consolidate the pump panel and to consolidate and create more space and shorten the size of the vehicle, the more I'm for that. A lot of departments actually like to use air-operated valves. You got to be careful with that because it depends on the environment you're in. We get a lot of condensation in Colorado. Condensation, especially in the wintertime, tends to freeze. And then you got a valve that's stuck open or you got a valve that's stuck closed. That's one of the big ones with that. But once again, technology is a big one. And I get a lot of pushback from a lot of different customers because they're not really up with the technology and don't understand the technology.
I have seen you speak about this, and I believe that you have also written about this. So before we cut over to Jason, who is now ready at the truck, just talk real quick for me about needs versus wants. I know this is something that you have discussed on numerous occasions, and just very quickly, just do that since we've got Jason on the hook now.
So real quick, I was the chairman of the apparatus committee. I had 5 different groups that I dealt with. So I had a pumper group, aerial group, wildland group, EMS group, and a specialty group. So you can think of all the dynamic features of each one of those groups. And a lot of times it came down to a need versus a want. Let's talk about a lighting package real quick. Do we really need that on the truck to keep it safe and keep it well lit, or do we just want it because it looks good and it looks pretty? So you gotta look at the functional side of that as well.
Okay, well, I see Jason on the screen now, so we're going to start throwing it over to him. Brian, I know that you and I, kind of, behind the scenes on this as the video was going on, we kind of threw some things back and forth to each other. So I'm just going to let you dive into it with Jason. I know you have a number of questions for him.
Right. So, Jason, very well done, by the way. Very nicely done. My first question for you is the tip of the ladder. Is that a structural component or is it replaceable, sacrificial?
Excellent question, Chief. You'll see the what looks to be a stainless steel finish on the tip of the ladder. That is actually our bolt-on egress. So it is a sacrificial part of the ladder that can be replaced. We put a lot of thought just into this as well. You can see this, just the handrails and the K-bracing, it's all knurled aluminum, so as you're transitioning to and from a roof, it gives you a lot more of a positive feedback as you're getting on. Also, you'll see that the rounded corners on the front of the stainless as well, or on the egress, that just prevents it from getting hung up on the roof or soffit. And also just the fact that it's stainless, you'll see in a lot of traditional aerials that it is painted. So if it gets nicked or marked through its service, it could have the tendency of rusting, where the stainless version that we offer here will not rust.
Very nice. So talk about the waterway, Jason, and the GPM for the waterway, GPM for the nozzle, and is that nozzle, can it be moved for rescue mode or for firefighting mode?
Excellent question, Chief. All of the family of ladders for a KME have a waterway that's rated for 1500 GPM. It's just more water on the scene gives us the flexibility for firefighters to use it. So you'll take notice, we go above and beyond that traditional 1000 GPM flow. The nozzle, in this case, happens to be an Elkhart. It is sized to equate to that flow. So this is monitor nozzle configuration, will flow 1500 GPM. And the waterway, like you had referenced, it is pinnable. There is an electronic transfer switch at the tip of the ladder that'll allow this monitor to either be pinned to the outer fly section or the tip of the ladder. The one thing that we really pride in when we did aerials is this 1500 G waterway, you get full, there's zero restrictions. So if for some reason you're in a position where the monitor has to be pointed 90 degrees out the side of the ladder, you still have that same 500-pound tip load, still have that same 1500 GPM rating. So wherever you can position that monitor, it's going to provide you that 50 pounds per minute.
So Jason, let's say I show up on scene, I'm going to deploy the ladder and make it fully operational. How much time does that typically take?
the beauty of this tough truck design here with a 12-foot jack stance, it's very minimal. And right around 20 to 24 seconds, since the jacks are only really coming out only about 3 foot on each side, you can deploy these jacks very quickly. They are extended jack or stroke jack as well, so you have up to 10 degrees leveling that you can get this truck in operation. So it's very quick, very fast setup.
Nice. Now, when they're fully deployed, does it auto switch to aerial, or do you manually switch it to aerial?
This is an automatic system. So if we take a walk to the back of the vehicle here, you'll see our jack controls. This is going to be a control on each side of the apparatus. So you can see there's an out and down control for each jack. When they're illuminated, they start off red. When the jack comes out, it turns green. Same with down pressure. So once all 4 jacks, once you get this truck set up level and operational, you can access your level here. All these will be satisfied green. And you're going to see on the switch pad a ladder power switch. So that's signifying you that electronic transfer has happened. Before you even leave the ground to go up to the turntable, you know that the truck is set up properly and you'll have the ability to get the aerial out of the cradle.
Okay, I'm going to switch it up on you here. Since you're standing there, it looks like you got a camera on the upper part of the truck right there. And I got to tell you, in my department, there's a lot of backing accidents, especially with aerials. So talk about the camera system on this truck.
This has a 360-degree camera, so it's very impressive. There's cameras on the front, back, also the sides of the apparatus, and that feeds all inputs into a screen inside the cab. It basically gives you a 360-degree orientation around the vehicle. We actually go one step further. When you're driving, you can actually engage a overlay on that display. Will actually show the jacks extended. So before this operator or chauffeur even gets out of the cab, he has the ability to see if his jack is going to interfere with a tree, a car, a dumpster, whatever, before he even sets the parking brake. So it's just one additional feature in addition to being able to see around the entire vehicle, is just to having that knowledge of knowing you're going to be able to get the jack set.
Chief and Jason, if I could interrupt you for just a second. We do have a few questions coming in from the audience, and I want to make sure that we get to them. You know, and Chief, we'll switch back to you as well.
Sure.
Jason, real quick, was the overall length on this vehicle 34 feet, or was it something different? What was it in the video?
This truck, as it sits right here, is going to be right around 38 feet. Again, we do offer this configuration in a dry truck configuration, so we can actually get an integrated compartment in the front of the body, which would eliminate the pump house, and we could get the truck down even shorter if we needed to. It would actually get the wheelbase even down to just over 200 inches. And again, even if it would be without a pump and tank, this is all flexible for us. So if wheelbase and maneuverability was key, we can make this as short, just like we had talked about, or you can have a larger compartment with transverse storage in place of this pump house as well.
Okay, and we talked a bit about, you mentioned in the video that this has the, I believe it's the advanced aerial control system. Yes, advanced aerial controls. A couple of questions on that. First of all, are those advanced aerial controls standard or optional? And with them, can you get a remote control?
Sure, those are a lot of great questions. If we want, we can actually take a walk up here to the turntable and get a little bit of a highlight or a better visual on the controls themselves.
While we get...
So to start answering your questions while we're getting the camera in position here, no problem. The advanced controls are basically our standard or our base for the electric controls. So you'll see on the turntable here, the advanced control system comes with like a 10-inch touch screen. You'll have the ability here to get all of your information from the apparatus. So you'll have a real-time tip load, so as your aerial moves, it'll show where you can have additional weight distributed through the aerial device. It'll give you a brief snapshot of how the truck is set up. A lot of indicators also, like your cradle alignment, rung alignment, all that is displayed through here. Another nice feature is on the bottom right, you're going to see is a display from J1939. So that gives you the ability up here to give input from just what's going on in the chassis, fuel level, things like that. Also, when you're flowing water, everything is integrated into the screen. You're going to get the total flow. It also has a totalizer, pressure, everything is displayed right through here as well. You have the ability also to integrate our maintenance manual right through this as well. So when you're back at the station and you're trying to reference what needs to be done maintenance-wise, you can get that right through this touch screen. As far as a remote control to offer the aerial, it's not something we have done at KME yet, just as a safety concern, making sure you can actually see the aerial in motion as you're operating it. So at this point, it's not something we offered. But as far as the electric controls, we offer that full electric over hydraulic. And there is a lot of customers that don't necessarily want that electric over hydraulic. So we do also offer just straight hydraulic controls on the aerial device as well. So if people aren't comfortable with that electric over hydraulic, we try and be adaptive and meet everybody's needs.
Okay, and just one more before we let you get down off of there. This comes in, and then we'll switch over to the next video. We talked a lot over the past 2 weeks, Ferrera and E1. We talked a lot about the SAM system. And is the SAM pump control system available on the Tough Truck?
Again, this is the Hale XS. So pretty much any package that is available from Hale with that SAM system, it would be available on this system as well. So it pretty much would marry over here to an aerial family at any of the KME aerials as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Jason. I'm going to let you get down off of there. We're going to let you take a little break there, and we're going to take a look at the Pittston truck now, guys.
Hi, welcome back to the second of our walk-arounds here at KME. Before we get started, I just want to take an opportunity to thank the City of Pittston for allowing us to use this vehicle that has been put in service. Pittston has been gracious enough to let us use it. They are a combination paid volunteer department, pretty much in the backyard of our main facility where we manufacture the trucks in Nesquehoning, Pennsylvania. So again, thank you for the opportunity to showcase your truck. This engine that we're about to take a look at is a Predator Panther chassis, 100-inch wide cab. The engine is a 450 horsepower Cummins engine married up to an Allison EVS 3000 transmission. Being a custom manufacturer really gives us the flexibility to custom design an apparatus for a fire department. You'll take notice here, instead of a traditional canopy window, the department decided to add EMS compartments to each side of the cab. Very popular option today. Gives the ability to access equipment, maybe EMS bags, things that are utilized quick from the cab. There is typically access both on the inside and the outside of the apparatus. In the back of the truck here, you're going to see the engine enclosure is shortened up. And that's because our Predator Panther chassis allows for a Cummins 450 horsepower engine, which really maximizes the room, allows us to tailor that engine enclosure around that engine and transmission, giving us the most versatile and maximize the space for the firefighters. The seats themselves are USSC seats, and in those seats are the IMI Smart Dock SCBA restraint. It's a no cable, no release. It's basically just sit and pull and allows the SCBA to release from the seat. On a lot of city trucks, a lot of them are built for higher wear, higher volume use. You'll take notice we have some rubber style fenderettes, which is a very popular option on a lot of city rigs. Also, you'll take notice here in the pump panel, it is a Linex coated high protection panel coating that will allow for lifetime use of protection of that panel. And you'll also see along the bottom of the apparatus, It carries a consistent design with a poly rubber rail, which gives a little bit more better protection as you're trying to drive down tight city streets. You don't have to worry about bright polished rubber rails. These will be a little bit more durable. The pump configuration that the city of Pittston chose for engine 4 is a 2000 GPM Hale QMax pump. You can see there's a variation of push-pull controls or hand wheel controls. The apparatus is outfitted with traditional cross lays. Right now there's 2 3/4 and a 2.5 cross lay on the side. Pump panel, booster reel configuration up in the dunnage area, along with a TFT gun. You can see also here on the pump panel there is an electric control for that gun, just to try and minimize the apparatus being climbed on and potential for falls, so it just keeps everything close and on the ground. In addition to the discharges that you see here, there is also 4 hose bed discharges that we'll see in a little bit, 2 3/4 and then 2 additional 2.5 discharges off the back. The body configuration chosen for engine 4 is our KME medium body. The body itself has a 64-inch fender, which allows for fender storage. You can see here, you can either hold water cans, dry chemical extinguishers, or SCBA cylinders. The medium body style just references the length of the body. There are multiple configurations that we have. In this case right now, as it sits, this is a full height, full depth driver's side, and then full height, full depth, or split depth on the officer's side. As we walk around the back of the apparatus, we're going to see it is our traditional wide bed hose bed. So basically the hose bed, or the design of the configuration, goes from side sheet to side sheet of the body. On the upper left portion of the hose bed, you can see there was an additional compartment added for department Stokes basket. You can see the additional rear discharges that we spoke about just previously. And there is also a size for 1,500 feet of 5-inch large diameter hose in that hose bed as well. Packaged on top of the body is also a Cummins 8 kW generator. That generator powers obviously things like this cord reel that we can see mounted up in the dunnage area. Also, the fire department chose to go with fire research scene lighting. You can see that throughout the vehicle in these telescoping lights in the back of the cab, 12-volt scene lights across the top of the body, and also tripod lights in the back. The fire department also did something a little bit different than what most traditional departments do. You'll see the Zone A upper NFPA warning light is covered by a federal warning light package. And the lower portion, again, to meet NFPA, is all Whelen. So again, upper all federal package, lower all Whelen. You can see that we also packaged all the warning lights recessed in that front bumper. Again, just trying to minimize how wide, or the stance of that vehicle, maybe protect the lights when they're trying to go down narrow streets. Even the federal Q2B is fully recessed into the front bumper here. The front bumper is a short bumper, only 7 or 10 inches deep, allows for just a shorter overall length. And you can see it also provides opportunities for mounting equipment on the front bumper. To key in on safety and innovation, you can see the city of Pittston here actually chose to go with a backlit handrail. In this case, they are backlit red. Just allows for operators, as they're getting on and off the apparatus, to see the handrail. Department integrated into their design. You can see a mid-turn signal light that they added to the rear of the cab. On top of that as well, you'll see here on the fenderette, we remote located all of the quarter turn drains for the air tank system. What that does is allow for easy access for the operator, or whether it's their day-to-day check or their weekly routinely checks, to drain the moisture from the tanks without having to climb in underneath the apparatus to do that. Thank you to the city of Pittston for allowing us to showcase Engine 4 here at our Rev event. This is going to wrap up our tours for day 1 here. Looking forward to hearing some of your questions and talking with you a little bit later in the day.
Okay, we're back, and again, this is a truck that kind of embraces a lot of what we see in the fire service right now in terms of apparatus specification. It's a truck that's equipped to do a lot of things, but it's also designed to be as compact as possible. Pittston, my wife grew up about 45 minutes from there, so I'm a little familiar with the area. It's one of those old type northeast mid-Atlantic type cities. So, you know, there's a lot of features built into that, and we'll get into that with Brian in just a minute here. But Chief Brown, what are your general impressions of the truck having seen the video now?
I like the overall impression. It's very short, very dynamic, very durable truck. I like the fact that they use the poly for the rub rails and the rubber fenderettes. I can't tell you how many of those we've actually replaced and or taken off. I like the truck overall. It's very end user friendly, especially from the maintenance side when Jason was actually showing the bleeder valves for the air tanks and more features of the truck. I do have a couple questions about the lights that we'll get into later, but very nicely done.
Okay, well, let's cut over to Brian now, and we'll get into our questions. Don't forget, as Chief Brown and I are talking to Brian, don't forget, type in your questions in the Ask a Question box, and we'll get to as many as we can. If we can't, will be some opportunities that we'll talk about later where you can get them answered. But Chief Brown, take it away.
Brian, like I said before, number one, thank you for being here and doing that. You did an awesome job on the truck in the video. Do you have a question about the lower lights, especially the front bumper on both sides, and then the midship lights that have that lower white light? So are those like ditch lights or scene lights, and do they come on when the turn signal comes on?
These lights here in the bumper, first of all, we see the bumper that we're talking about, a smaller 6-inch bumper. We talked about the streets in the Northeast and how tight everything is, so they chose to go the smaller bumper. You'll see how the lights are recessed so they don't protrude. These lights can be set to different flash patterns and just different features, whether it's the white light. We also have some of the lights on the back of the cab that are turn signal lights as well. So we have a bunch of different features going on with the lights along the bottom of this unit.
Okay, go back to the front bumper and the light on the side right in front of the driver's door, and look at that white light down below. So the white light down integrated with this light is, again, you can program it to different flash features. You can set it for different spot features and whatnot. There are also lights underneath the truck for step lights and lighting around the perimeter beside what you can do with these lights. Very nice. Very nice. The hose bed walkway. I know NFPA kind of changed that it needs to be illuminated now. So is it reflective, or do you have a choice to actually have it illuminated?
We can do both. So if you're talking about the top hose bed walkway up top, so when you get into the stepping surfaces or up at the upper portion, we do have the option to illuminate it more, but we do offer illumination as well as reflective material around the perimeter just to mark off any when you start getting closer to the edge of the truck.
Very nice. When Jason was talking about the EMS compartments, I know a lot of departments, and we did it the same. We use those for EMS compartments, but it appears that a lot of them are actually using that for SCBA and PPE storage as well.
Well, that's obviously an option. The fire department here is using this for EMS equipment, different things other than SCBA, although we do offer that feature. In this particular cab, you'll see in the walkway, the cab, you'll see the configuration. So they have 2 SCBA seats with SCBA's outboard as well as far as extra. So one of the things you'll notice in the Panther chassis that we have here, you'll notice the foot space in front of the seating area. Because it's a lower profile, a smaller doghouse, it gives you a lot more space for seating positions. So again, outboard they have some EMS compartments, but we do configure those with seating. So again, it all depends what the mission of the department is and what they design.
Very nice. Roll-up doors. So are roll-up doors more popular from your customers rather than the old hinge type doors?
We still do both roll up and hinge, and right now it seems, again, if you're looking for the areas, especially in Northeast and some of the cities where they don't have some of the room to actually open up a full-size hinge compartment, this is where the roll-up door comes into play. But again, we can do hinged or roll-up doors.
Very nice. Brian, let's go back to the cab. And we talk about the clean cab concept with the firefighter cancer and now the COVID virus and other viruses that are out there. Do you use any in-cab filters and or any HEPA filters?
We do give an option for a engine type HEPA filter, and I believe we're going to talk a little about some of the exciting things we've got coming up in a future segment. But this cab in particular, what we try to do, you see a lot of the painted surfaces, so the painted surfaces are a whole lot easier to wipe down and clean. Same with the flooring. It's a flooring composite material that you can wash out. Some of the, obviously the seats can have covers that you can remove and are also washable. So we try to do as much as we can to make it a whole lot easier to clean, to keep clean and sanitize.
Now, Brian, as we let you kind of save your voice for a second, I wanted to make our way back over to the booth. You mentioned some exciting things that are going to be coming up regarding that clean cab concept and some of the things that Rev might have in the pipeline. Mike, did you want to comment on any of that?
So we have a show coming up on the 18th of this month where we're going to feature Rev Technologies, and because we own bus companies that do transit buses and we also own the ambulance companies that we own, we're very in tune to not just clean cab, which is what's been asked about in every one of these episodes, but we're looking more to go to like a sterile cab type environment. So we've been working on some exclusive products that we are going to have available across all of our brands to be able to address this COVID situation that we have now, as well as the HEPA filters and getting the carcinogens out of the cabs. And we just feel like we need to focus on firefighter safety, and we need to focus on keeping our firefighters safe when they're transferring in our trucks. So we've got some things coming up, and we hope it comes back on the 18th.
Great. Well, I would like to cut back to Brian now. We gave him his rest. He's not totally off the hook just yet. I'd like to cut back over to him at the truck. We do have a number of questions coming in about the truck. First of all, let's see here. The overall length of the truck and the rear and front angles of departure. What are we looking at there, Brian?
So overall, the length of the truck is 29 feet overall length. Your angle of departure is 8 degrees. It has a 175 wheelbase. While we're talking about overall dimensions, one of the nice things with this too is this is under 10 feet high. So you have 9 feet 4 inches as far as an overall height. Width is 100-inch wide. Okay, let's see. Could you move back to that compartment with the rescue tools in it? That rear compartment there. Sure.
We have a question about that. Just a little bit. Could you talk a bit about the storage system for those tools?
Yeah, one of the things obviously that departments look at, and we help out all the time, is how to lay out your compartments the best that you can to utilize the space that you can. And in this compartment, this is their rescue tool compartment. Obviously, they're using the Hurst e-hydraulics. You'll also notice that we've got pack track on the back of the wall to mount. So the name of the game is basically ergonomics when you're trying to handle some of these larger rescue tools. So one of the nice parts about this setup is you can fully extend the compartment, and then this is a Zymatic lazy Susan type thing where you can actually turn the whole system around and choose whatever tool in the best position that you need to get it on. So very well thought out compartment as far as rescue tools.
Okay, and the tank size for that truck, what's the tank size on the piston rig?
Water tank on this is 750 gallons, and we can do a combination up to 1,000 gallons. Again, once we start laying out the tank, it's obviously taking into consideration hose loads and things of that nature, but we can go up to 1,000 gallons.
Okay, cab lengths. We talked a little bit about the cab, some of the features. You showed us the 4 SCBA that are in there. A question came in, are there different cab lengths available for potentially more seating?
Absolutely. We offer a cab length that you see here is what we call an MFD. So that's the extension that you're seeing. We offer an XMFD, an LFD, and an XLFD. So it goes up all the way to a 20-inch total extension off the back. So it gives you a variety of different seating options from what you see here. Again, with our cabs, when you get into a severe service, a Panther, or a Predator, depending on the width of the cab as well. We also offer 10-inch raised roofs, 16-inch raised roofs, and 22-inch raised roofs as well.
Okay, talking about the compartments again, and you can hang out at the cab because I'll have another question for you up there. But the compartments, are they set up for recharging battery-powered equipment?
They can be. We can do different variations. Again, it's all based on whatever the fire department likes. We can put charging terminals in to actually charge any of their equipment while it's on board. So again, it's customer specific, but we have all those types of options available.
Okay, and the switches in the cab, are they customizable?
The switching in our cabs are customizable. I mean, we have a set layout that we like to use, but you can see up through that you can customize as far as what position each one of those switches are. So we also have the multiplex available as well. We don't use a proprietary multiplex. This has a Class 1 system in it. So yes, you can go back and lay out your switches.
Okay, and did you mention the name of that multiplex system just now? Is it using the E2020?
This is the Class 1 multiplex system.
Okay, and body materials. What are some of the body material options offered by KME?
Body material options for KME, 3/16 aluminum. We do stainless steel offerings, and we also offer a galvanneal steel option for a body.
Okay, and before we let you go, Brian, I wanted to head back over to Chief Brown, see if he had any follow-up questions for you before we get everybody ready for some of the showroom meetings. Chief?
I do have one question, Brian. Let's talk about the frame, because you talked about the galvanneal steel. Do you guys have a galvanneal coating or a galvanized coating on the frame for corrosion?
We do offer that option. We offer the galvanized frame rails. We do offer painted frame rails as well. So we do have those options for any type of corrosion prevention.
Very nice, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, that brings us just about to the end of our hour here this morning. For our two truck walk arounds. Got a little tongue tied there. I'd like to thank our guest here, Chief Brian Brown. I'd like to also thank our speakers today, Jason and Brian, for taking us around those trucks. Again, if you haven't had an opportunity to have a question answered, go to the Rev showroom after, and we will do our best to get your question answered. In a minute, I'm going to cut back over to the booth for some parting words from the Rev folks. But I also did just want to remind everybody once again, from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock today, FDIC powered education. We're going to be talking about proven truck tactics that might surprise you. Given all the aerial trucks we've seen this week, that's a pretty appropriate class, I think. So make sure you return. Just log back in, go to RevTruckExpo.com, log in, add it to your schedule, and and you'll be able to watch the live stream for that. Wanted to cut back to the booth now to Mike and Alyssa, see if there are any parting words from Mike or Alyssa for the folks, for our visitors and our attendees today.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. We just want to again say thank you to Chief Brown for being with us today. Tune back in tomorrow. You'll catch him again tomorrow, and we've got 2 new amazing trucks to show you tomorrow. So tune back in live at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow to catch us again. As Chris said, don't forget to check out the FDIC-backed education today. Tomorrow we have Rev Education. If you've heard a little bit in the industry about eco technology, idle mitigation, you don't want to miss tomorrow's feature, which is going to highlight that topic, and you'll learn a little bit more about what Rev is doing to answer that call in the industry. Facebook Live with Chris McClune later today. If you're tuned into Facebook, check that out. Make sure to share it across all of your social media platforms. And we just want to keep the conversation going that we've started today. So be sure to schedule your one-on-one meetings with our brand reps today, either Jason or Brian. But tune back in tomorrow. We want to see more of this conversation. We want to just keep the conversation going and tell you more about what KME has to offer.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Alyssa. Well, again, this has been Chris McClune for the RevFireGroup Apparatus Conference and Expo. Don't forget, coming up next, FDIC Powered Education. After that, coming up next is Rev Showroom meetings. After that, FDIC Powered Education. Don't forget, though, to go back into the portal often, because there's a lot of information in there about all the different brands we've already touched on, what's coming, and what we've seen today. So again, my thanks to all of our speakers today. Have a good one and stay safe.
And we're back, and we have Peter Horachek, KME Senior Product Manager, with us. That video was packed with a lot of information, and we've got some questions we'd like to get to. So, Pete, we've got a viewer who wants to know more about the tank size on the aerial. That's big for a 133-foot aerial. Can you tell us more about it and like how you did it?
Sure. Thanks, Ed. A good question. We developed a tough truck because we want to go up and be competitive in the single axle market that's out there. And one thing that the single axle market's marketing is maneuverability. So we came up with a truck that has a shorter wheelbase, shorter overall length, more narrow cab and body, a shorter torque box and outer rigger stance, better weight carrying capacity, and it doesn't have any restrictions on the aerial operation. So one of the features was we designed the body. It is on a tandem chassis, okay? So it gave us more carrying capacity. So one of the advantages of being a tandem was we had better braking, better traction, better vehicle stability, no restrictions on equipment loads, and we offer more suspension options. So with the carrying capacity, we had the room in the body to package up to a 650-gallon water tank if you needed it. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
pretty awesome package.
It is indeed. Now, along that same line, how many ground ladders can you have on this aerial?
Well, that's the first thing we looked at when we designed the body, and we wanted to be able to offer an ISO ground ladder complement. Obviously, you need to meet NFPA, you need an NFPA ground ladder complement 116 feet, but the ISO ground ladder complements 163 feet of ground ladders. So in doing that, we designed the body and the torque box to package two 35-foot two sections. So again, giving you that next rating in your ISO rating.
Indeed. I have another question here. Can you get different engines and pumps in the piston truck? Is there any options you can have on those on that apparatus?
Well, the Pistons truck is built on our Panther chassis, and the Panther chassis is good available with L9 up to 450 horsepower Cummins engine. And on that package, as far as a pump, we can do a Hale, a Waterous, or a Darley pump and any model pump actually, and any GPM.
That's great. So another question here is, what is the overall dimensions of the aerial, including wheelbase?
Okay, that's a good question. One thing is we designed it with a 227-inch wheelbase with a pump. Okay, and that's built on our MFD chassis. But when you don't have a pump, we'll replace the pump module with a locker compartment. We can get down to under 200 inches on the wheelbase.
That's awesome. Great. Very good. How about another question here? The aerial functions, are there any restrictions, wet or dry, low angle?
No restrictions whatsoever. This device here is a 103-foot aerial cat ladder. it'll operate at -7 to 80 degrees elevation. And no matter how the truck's positioned at the fire scene, if you need to reach over the cab as low as you can get, full extension, full rating, there's no restrictions.
That's great. Makes it a very versatile piece of equipment, no doubt.
Yes.
Let's see. Another question we have here. What kinds of metals are available or used for making pumpers like pistons?
On the body,
Yeah.
we offer the cab in aluminum, okay?
Right.
But on our body, we can offer that body that was built on Pistons truck is 3/16 aluminum, but we can offer it in galvanized steel, 304L stainless, or 3CR12 stainless steel.
Great. So you can have a choice of aluminum, stainless, or galvanneal.
Right, because we do a fabricated body. There's no change in compartment dimensions.
Great. That's important when you're trying to spec a truck, no doubt.
Sure.
Now let's see. Outriggers. We've got a question here about outriggers on the aerial. Tell us about that. It looked pretty narrow for a aerial.
Yeah, they're awesome because again, like I said earlier, we developed a truck with a 96-inch cab and a 96-inch body. So we want to be able, if you get it positioned at a fire scene, to get the outriggers out or stabilizers. And this truck is equipped with a 12-foot jack spread, and it's unmatched. So there's two sets of them, front and rear, but they're also what we call deep penetrating outriggers. So this truck will level on a 11-degree slope.
Wow, that's great. That's quite steep.
Yeah.
We have a question about weight capacities. It's like tip load, I guess, on this one. What about tip loads on the aerial?
Okay, the 103 AeroCat ladder is designed with first of all, a 2.5 to 1 structural safety factor based off a 500-pound tip load, fully extended at 0 degrees, even with a 1,500 GPM waterway flow rate.
That's great. That's quite impressive.
Yeah.
That looks like what we've got for questions. Are there any comments you'd like to share with us, Peter, as we wrap up here?
No, thanks for joining in on the broadcast. And if need be, you can reach out to the KME website, kmefire.com, and look in our directory. You can call me direct, and I'll be pleased to take your call and give you information.
Yes. Well, as we wrap up here, I'd like to thank Pete for being here with us on this encore presentation and answering our questions about the KME products. If you'd like to learn more about KME or the RevFireGroup, go to kmefire.com. This presentation will also be archived and available for viewing at any time at FDICproductnetwork.com. For FDIC International and Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment, this has been Ed Ballum. Thank you for watching, and until we meet again, stay safe.